My name is Lily Walton, and I will be presenting a report on Anthony Comstock and the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice. Free speech isn't so free when it costs you your liberty. All around the world, the right to suppress one's thoughts and beliefs is under assault. The act of censorship in America has been one of the most remarkable battles the American people have had to endure. Even though the United States Constitution grants Americans the right considered to be unalienable, such as the First Amendment, which states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." American authors and artists have still had to endure extreme suppression of their artistic expressions. Countless numbers of books, plays, movies, and other works of art have been banned throughout history because of the fear that it would stir a moral defiance among the citizens of the U.S. So many books that could have had the ability to change and save lives have been burned or otherwise destroyed, many of which may never be recovered. This present report will serve to examine and analyze the life and work of Anthony Comstock, as well as the organization he was a part of, the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice. Comstock was a United States postal inspector who dedicated much of his life and career to censoring material he felt was a threat to the moral stability of society as a whole. There are 4 areas of research that this paper will discuss. To begin with, I will discuss Anthony Comstock's life and events leading to his vice crusade, his role in the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice, and the lasting impact and cases that Anthony Comstock has left on America. I will begin with discussing who Anthony Comstock is. He was one of America's strongest proponents for censorship, a white male Congregationalist who fought in the Civil War. Comstock was born in 1844 in New Canaan, Connecticut. Along with the beliefs of a typical white male of this era, he also was a tremendous advocate of Victorian morality. Comstock held the job of a postal inspector and dedicated his work to shielding American people from what he considered to be immoral or sexually deviant. In his career, he reports to have confiscated 194,000 obscene pictures and photographs, 134,000 pounds of books, 14,200 stereo plates, 60,300 rubber articles, which were likely contraceptives, 5,500 sets of playing cards, 31,150 boxes of pills, which were likely birth control or aphrodisiacs. In addition to these things, he successfully lobbied Congress to pass a law known as the Comstock Act. The Comstock Act made it a crime to send anyone any material that was considered to be obscene. Much of his work was centered on preventing the distribution of contraceptives, such as birth control, prophylactics, and information about abortion. Being a devout Congregationalist and an advocate for morality, it is ironic that he believed one of his greatest accomplishments to be that he caused 15 people to kill themselves because of bringing their moral standing into question and imprisoning innocent people for their art that he considered to be lewd. Comstock reports confiscating over 15,000 letters, pictures, books, and other things he collected through the mail by people in New York. He calls himself the weeder of God's garden. Several scholars noted that Anthony Comstock was an obsessive man who took pride in bringing misery onto others. He enjoyed burning books and artwork that was confiscated during his obsessive tirades with morality. The New York Society for the Suppression of Vice will be the next thing I discuss. During his years working in the post office, he began his crusade on vice. After bringing down a bookstore for selling a friend obscene works of art that led him away from religion, a founding member of the YMCA recognized his efforts and introduced him to a group of wealthy men who were also interested in societal reform. With Anthony Comstock as their leader, these men helped fund his efforts of hunting and destroying vice in New York City. They banded together and became known as the Society for the Suppression of Vice. The Society for the Suppression of Vice was founded in 1873. The primary goal of the organization was to seek out and destroy any organization or material that they deemed to be obscene. In this organization, the men were granted certain police powers which allowed them the ability to perform search and seizure, arrest, and interrogations. These powers were given to the chapter by the New York legislature. On top of these perks, the society also received 50% of the fines they collected crusading the city. They held large demonstrations for their followers, which included things such as book burnings, protests, and rallies. After the formation of the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice, other societies around the country began to pop up. Some cities, such as Boston, were successful in creating watchdog agencies to intercept the creation and distribution of obscene works. The next thing I will discuss is the major cases and lasting impact that Anthony Comstock and the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice has had in America. One of the major cases that the society was responsible for was encouraging the imprisonment of actress Olga Nethersov, who was famous for her role in the play titled Sappho. The play toured in several cities before reaching New York. In these cities, reviews were written saying that the play was obscene and offensive. By the time it got to New York, the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice had already been on the case and preparing to shut the whole production down. After 2 weeks of production, the district attorney issued a complaint with the magistrate, which led to the issuing of a warrant for the actress Olga Nethersov and her co-star. They were both charged with offending public decency and arrested. Another case that was spearheaded by Anthony Comstock was in the Society for the Suppression of Vice was the incarceration of an actress named Mae West. She was an American writer and actress who wrote and performed in her own play, Sex. The society was responsible for pushing law enforcement to incarcerate her because of the obscenity and the sexual depictions in her play. She was sentenced to 10 days in jail, and the weight of censorship eventually caused her career to end. Arguably one of the most intriguing cases on censorship that the society led was the attempted banning of the book Ulysses, written by James Joyce. Ulysses was deemed to be obscene because it was thought to arouse sexual images in people. The publishers of the book took their case to court. The famous ruling by Judge John M. Woodley in the New York District on December 6, 1933, altered the course of history and began the era of change in America regarding censorship. Judge Woodley proposed the idea that the entire book had not been obscene, but basically called it a depiction, a descriptive account of human interaction, and allowed it to be sold in the United States. Anthony Comstock was an American politician who sought to bring reform through extreme levels of censoring material which he felt was leading to a cultural decline. He based his plan for reform off of Victorian morality. He was a widely hated man because he was the reason that so many amazing works of art never reached the hands of Americans. He founded the New York Society for the Suppression of Vice and an organization dedicated to maintaining moral decency. The society was filled with other white men who shared the same obsession as Comstock when it comes to morality. The organization was granted police powers of search and seizure, performing arrests and interrogations. The society was responsible for many of the arrests on the basis of obscenity in New York. They shut down many organizations such as the Louisiana Lottery for gambling and other activities that they deemed to be immoral.